What if rejection wasn't a curse, but a strategy? Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled through plague, war, betrayal, and relentless political pressure, faced rejection daily. Rejection of his ideals, rejection from allies, rejection from life itself. And yet, he wrote calmly in his journal, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." What kind of mind could look at rejection, pain, and adversity and not flinch? This is not just about history. This is about you. You've been told that rejection is a sign of failure, that when someone says no, it's the end of the road, that every door that closes is a blow to your self-worth. But what if that's completely wrong? What if the Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, saw rejection not as a wall, but as a mirror, a redirection, a secret weapon? Welcome to Stoic Diary, where today we dive deep into the ancient armor of Stoicism and how it turns life's no into fuel for inner strength. In this video, you're going to learn 13 powerful lessons based on Stoic principles that will forever change how you interpret rejection. These aren't abstract ideas, these are battle-tested insights that you can apply in real life, today. Whether you're dealing with a failed relationship, a lost job, a closed door, or the silence after putting yourself out there, these lessons are designed to equip you with the calm, clarity, and confidence of a Stoic. And stay with me until the end, because lesson number 1 is the most powerful of all. It's the one Marcus Aurelius lived by in his darkest hours. It's the mindset that allowed him to lead with strength while others fell apart. You're about to understand that rejection is not the opposite of success. It's part of the path. It's the universe refining your direction. It's life asking you, how bad do you want it? How strong is your purpose? Will you fold or will you rise? This isn't motivation. This is mental training, the same kind the Stoics practiced thousands of years ago. So prepare yourself. You won't just hear 13 lessons, you'll experience a shift in how you process setbacks. You'll stop seeing rejection as a threat and start using it as a compass. You'll stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Thank you for showing me where to grow." And now, a challenge for you. Comment below with this phrase if you're ready to transform rejection into strength. The obstacle is the way. Lesson 13. Rejection reveals what you cling to. Rejection is not random, it's surgical, precise. It doesn't strike at your strengths, it exposes your attachments. When someone says no to you, when the door doesn't open, when you're excluded, ignored, or replaced, your first instinct is to blame the outside. They didn't see my worth. They misunderstood me. I wasn't given a fair shot. But the Stoics never placed the source of suffering in the external world. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, insists, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That is the essence of this lesson. Rejection is never just about the event, it's about the weight you gave it, the meaning you loaded onto it, the story you built around needing that person, that opportunity, that outcome. What hurts is not the no, but what you had tied to it: identity, pride, validation, future plans. In this way, rejection is a diagnostic tool. It reveals what you cling to, what you feel you must have to feel okay. That's why it stings so much, because it didn't just deny you something, it hit the narrative you've been protecting, the one that says, "I'll be complete when this happens," the one that says, "If I lose this, I'm nothing." That's not truth, that's attachment. And attachment is the enemy of inner peace. Marcus Aurelius was emperor. He could have clung to power, prestige, praise. But he wrote privately, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." Even in the face of loss, betrayal, or rejection, he trained his mind to detach from outcomes and return to what was his alone, his reasoned choice, his attitude, his virtue. And this is the invitation to you now. When you're rejected, do not ask, "Why did this happen?" Ask instead, "What does this reveal about what I've been clinging to?" Sometimes it's a title, sometimes a relationship, sometimes a dream that's become more about ego than purpose. Rejection peels away the illusion. It shows you where you've outsourced your stability, where you've made something external responsible for your inner state. Let's take an example. You apply for a job you feel deeply aligned with. You interview, you wait, and then comes the rejection email. It hits you hard, not just because of the job, but because you'd already imagined a version of yourself in that role. You'd attached identity to it, value, future. And when it's denied, it feels like you were denied, not the application. But the Stoic sees it differently. You didn't lose anything you ever truly owned. The only thing lost was an expectation, a narrative, a preferred outcome. So the question becomes, can you stand firm in who you are, even when your plans collapse? This is where character is forged. Marcus writes, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Rejection is that impediment. It can stop you or shape you. The choice is always yours. Let's go deeper. There's a hidden power in rejection that few access. It's the opportunity to examine your own desires. To ask, was I chasing this for the right reasons? You'd be surprised how often the answer is no. Rejection doesn't just block you, it protects you from pursuing the wrong path for too long. The Stoics taught that desire must be examined, not indulged. That a good life is not about getting what you want, but wanting what is good. If rejection exposes an unhealthy craving, that's a gift. If it forces you to ask, "Why do I need this so badly?" you've already begun the Stoic process of purification. But let's not pretend this is easy. When something you love or need is denied to you, the emotional response is real. Anger, shame, sadness, that's normal. The Stoics didn't deny emotion, they just refused to let it rule them. They let the emotion rise, and then they examined it. They sat with it until it passed. They turned their gaze inward and asked, "Is this worthy of disturbing my peace?" Almost always the answer was no. So what do you do when rejection comes? First, pause. Feel the emotion, but don't act from it. Don't fire back, don't beg, don't spiral. Just sit, let the wave pass. Second, observe. Ask, what was I clinging to? What meaning did I assign to this? Be brutally honest. Most pain is self-manufactured. Third, detach. Remember, nothing external is truly yours. Not love, not praise, not even your plans. What's yours is how you respond. Fourth, redirect. Use the rejection as clarity. If it revealed unhealthy attachment, let it go. If it confirmed your desire is real, double down with new wisdom. Fifth, grow. Rejection isn't the end, it's feedback. Let it refine you, sharpen you, prepare you. This is not a one-time lesson, it's a practice. The Stoics didn't just read about detachment, they lived it. Marcus Aurelius lost children, friends, battles. He knew pain intimately, but he never surrendered his peace to it, because he believed deeply that our actions may be impeded. But there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions. The only true loss is in losing yourself. So next time rejection comes, pause. Ask what it's trying to show you, and instead of collapsing, straighten your posture. Breathe. Say to yourself, I've lost nothing but illusion. What's mine cannot be taken. What's not mine, I release. That's the first step in transforming rejection into power. And that is Stoicism in action. Lesson 12. Rejection is a redirection, not a defeat. When the Stoics taught us to accept the course of life, they weren't encouraging passivity. They were teaching perception, because how you interpret what happens to you determines how powerful or powerless you become. And nowhere is this more obvious than in how you handle rejection. Rejection, when you first face it, feels like a door slamming shut, like a path you were meant to walk has suddenly collapsed beneath your feet. But as Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations, nature takes nothing, but gives something in return. The end of one possibility opens another, if only you train your eyes to see it. This is what makes rejection such a pivotal Stoic test. It doesn't just confront your will, it challenges your vision. You thought your plan was clear. You were moving toward a goal, a relationship, a promotion, an invitation, an agreement. You had calculated the steps, visualized the outcome, and then, no. Suddenly the ground shifts. Most people take that moment and fall into despair. They interpret rejection as a verdict. I wasn't good enough. I'll never make it. That was my only chance. But the Stoic flips the script. The Stoic looks at the same event and says, this wasn't the path, not because I failed, but because life is guiding me to something better suited for who I am becoming. It's not wishful thinking, it's the practice of redirection. Marcus Aurelius puts it bluntly, whatever happens to you has been waiting to happen since the beginning of time. In other words, the rejection was not random. It was part of a larger logic you may not yet understand. Let's look at it practically. Think of a moment in your past where you faced rejection, something you really wanted but didn't get. Maybe it was a person who turned away from you, a dream job that chose someone else, a creative project that never took off. In that moment, you might have felt broken, small, even angry, but looking back now, would you trade the lessons you gained from that experience? Often, rejection sets in motion the growth you didn't know you needed. It humbles the ego. It clarifies values. It pushes you to refine your skills, expand your patience, redirect your attention. And more often than not, it steers you to something that fits more honestly with your purpose. Stoicism doesn't teach you to avoid pain. It teaches you to interrogate it, to ask what it's revealing. And rejection, when examined, becomes a compass. It shows you where you've been placing too much of your identity, which paths are no longer aligned with your evolution, how strong your commitment truly is to your deeper values. This is why Stoics don't dwell on closed doors. They don't freeze in fear. They pivot, they accept the loss and then ask, what now? That question is sacred because it transforms a dead end into a doorway. Let's be clear, redirection is not failure, it's intelligence. Think of water. When a river hits a boulder, it doesn't stop. It flows around it. It finds another path. Not because it gave up, but because it honors movement more than stubbornness. This is the Stoic spirit in action. In modern life, you'll face hundreds, perhaps thousands of rejections. Some will feel small, a message left unanswered, a casual plan that falls through. Others will cut deep, losing a job you depended on or hearing "it's over" from someone you loved. Each instance will ask the same question: will you interpret this as the end or as a correction? Marcus Aurelius would argue, you don't even need to like the redirection. You only need to accept that it has arrived and it now belongs to your path. To fight it is to fight reality. To welcome it is to walk with life, not against it. So how do you apply this? Here are 5 guiding actions, each rooted in Stoic logic. First, release your imagined outcome. What you wanted may not be what you needed. Let go of the fantasy and return to the present. Second, identify the lesson. What did this rejection reveal about your assumptions, your resilience, your vision? Third, look for the new opening. Every no clears space. Scan your life. What now has room to grow because this was removed? Fourth, practice gratitude. Yes, even for the pain. As Epictetus says, difficulties show men what they are. This is your mirror. Fifth, move. Do not stay paralyzed. Do not wait for closure. The Stoic finds meaning by stepping forward, even if the next step is unclear. Now let me give you something to hold on to. Rejection is not the universe closing doors on you. It is the universe showing you which ones were never truly yours to begin with. That shift in perception changes everything, because now you don't see rejection as a strike against your worth. You see it as information. You don't fall into shame. You rise into strategy. You don't freeze. You pivot. And every time you pivot with intention, with calm, with courage, you become more aligned, more grounded, more unshakable. Marcus Aurelius never begged for circumstances to change. He adjusted himself to meet them. That's the Stoic's power, not to avoid rejection, but to alchemize it. So the next time you hear no, remember, this is not a stop sign, it's a signal, and that signal is pointing you toward a better alignment, a deeper strength, a truer path. Accept it, thank it, and move forward, not in defeat, but in clarity. That is Stoicism in action. Lesson 11, rejection strips away the ego. There's something about rejection that cuts deeper than almost anything else, not because of what it takes from us, but because of what it reveals about us. It scrapes away the surface, it dissolves the image we've built of ourselves, and that, precisely, is its gift. Ego thrives on certainty, on recognition, on control. But rejection denies all three. It reminds you that you are not owed acceptance, that the world does not revolve around your plans, that you can do everything right and still be denied. For the ego, this feels like death. For the Stoic, it's an awakening. Marcus Aurelius did not write for admiration. He wrote to himself, privately, repeatedly. Why? Because even as emperor, he knew the enemy wasn't outside. It was within. You have power over your mind, not outside events, he said. Realize this, and you will find strength. Rejection is one of the few experiences that bypasses your self-image and speaks directly to your core. It forces a confrontation. Who are you without the role, without the praise, without the outcome? Most people never ask that question. They live in a fog of assumptions. I'm valuable because people say so. I'm successful because I'm winning. I'm lovable because I'm wanted. But what happens when that external reflection is removed? When no one says yes? When the world doesn't mirror back your worth? That's when the ego panics, and that's when the Stoic begins. To the Stoic, rejection is not humiliation, it's purification. It strips away the illusion of control. It reveals how dependent you've become on things you cannot govern. It exposes the false beliefs that silently ruled your choices. I need to be chosen to feel worthy. I need to succeed to prove myself. I need this to matter. The Stoics would ask, why? What part of you demands that approval? What is so fragile that it collapses under a simple no? Rejection is not just a test, it is a mirror. It shows you whether your foundation is real or performative, whether you're grounded in principle or propped up by external validation. Let's be brutally honest. Most modern self-worth is conditional. It depends on attention, likes, promotions, status, applause. But the Stoic knows that anything dependent on externals is vulnerable, weak, unstable, because the moment the world changes, as it always will, your sense of self collapses. Ego is loud when it wins, but character is quiet when it loses. You see, Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal from friends. He faced political opposition. He lost loved ones. He watched as his empire strained under pressure, but he never used that pain to inflate his ego. He used it to refine his discipline. Do not waste what remains of your life, he wrote, in speculating about others, unless with a view to some mutual benefit. Rejection for him wasn't an insult, it was data. And if it hurt, That was just more reason to turn inward and ask, where is this pain pointing? What part of me is untrained, unprepared? The ego hates this. The ego wants revenge or validation or escape. But the Stoic sits in the discomfort, not to suffer, but to learn. Here's a harsh truth. The more it hurts to be rejected, the more ego was involved in your pursuit. That's not a moral judgment. It's a signal, a chance to rebuild your intention. Were you doing this for virtue or attention? Were you aiming to serve or to be admired? Were you motivated by duty or desire for recognition? These questions hurt, but they also heal. Because once you begin to separate your identity from your outcomes, you gain something that ego can never offer. Peace. Peace that does not depend on applause. Peace that is not shaken by no. Peace that lives in the fact that you are acting with integrity, regardless of results. This is why the Stoics aim to become self-sufficient, not in a financial sense, but in a moral one. They trained themselves to stand alone, to live by principle, not by praise, to seek excellence, not validation. So, how do you apply this lesson? First, notice where rejection hurts the most. That's where ego lives. Second, separate fact from story. You weren't rejected because you are unworthy. You were rejected because something didn't align, circumstance, timing, preference. Third, strip away the layers. Ask, what belief about myself was tied to this outcome? Then challenge it. Fourth, reaffirm your values. What matters is not being seen, but being true. Not being liked, but being consistent. Not being celebrated, but being just. Fifth, return to action. Rejection can silence you if you let it. Don't. Return to what you control, your effort, your focus, your intention. Let rejection break your ego, but not your spirit. Because when ego dissolves, clarity begins. You stop chasing applause. You stop editing yourself to please. You stop attaching your value to other people's reactions. And in that stillness, something ancient awakens. Resilience. Not the kind that fights the world, but the kind that cannot be shaken by it. You become, in the truest Stoic sense, invulnerable. Not because life stops hurting, but because you no longer rely on it to feel whole. Marcus Aurelius didn't need to win every battle to feel at peace. He just needed to stay aligned with reason, virtue, and discipline. That was enough. Let it be enough for you too. The next time you face rejection, don't fight it, don't defend yourself, don't inflate or collapse. Just say, thank you for showing me what I still needed to let go of. And then walk forward with less ego and more strength. That is Stoicism in action. Lesson 10. Every no strengthens your endurance. There is a quality more powerful than intelligence, more necessary than talent, and more essential than confidence. The Stoics called it fortitudo, fortitude, inner strength, the endurance of hardship with calm, and nothing builds it like rejection. Rejection, when seen rightly, is not an interruption to your path, it is the path. Each no you face becomes a brick in the foundation of your resilience. It is not a barrier to your power, it is the training ground for it. Marcus Aurelius did not pray for life to be easy. He trained for it to be unpredictable. His world was filled with resistance, disease, betrayal, war, and political tension. Yet he wrote, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In simpler words, every rejection is resistance, and resistance builds strength. Let's talk about how. Modern life is obsessed with comfort. We measure success by ease. How fast can I get it? How smoothly can I achieve it? But the Stoic doesn't seek ease. The Stoic seeks growth. And growth only happens under pressure. Every no is a form of pressure. It presses against your assumptions, your expectations, your emotional habits. And each time you meet that pressure without collapsing, you grow, not just in character, but in capacity. Here's what most people misunderstand. Endurance is not passive. It is not weakness. It is not resignation. It is discipline. The refusal to be thrown off course. The quiet strength of standing tall when you are not chosen, not praised, not validated. This is why rejection is necessary. It teaches you how to keep showing up without the applause, how to stay committed without the guarantee, how to remain principled even when the world doesn't reward you for it. Imagine this. You apply for something deeply meaningful, a role, a grant, a collaboration. You pour your best into it, and you're rejected, not once, not twice, maybe 5 or 6 times. Most people give up by the second attempt. They start telling themselves stories. It's not meant to be. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. I'll just lower my expectations. But not the Stoic. The Stoic listens to the no, examines it, learns from it, and then tries again. Not blindly, but strategically. Not out of desperation, but out of principle. Because here's what Marcus Aurelius would remind you. You have power over your mind. And if your mind remains grounded, no can truly shake you. Let's break this into real tools. First, treat rejection as repetition. Each no is a rep at the mental gym. It is shaping you, strengthening your emotional spine, building your tolerance for discomfort. Second, track your reactions. After each rejection, journal what you feel. Not to vent, but to see the pattern. Where do you shrink? Where do you grow? What stories return? Third, practice voluntary hardship. The Stoics trained for discomfort before it arrived. Skip luxuries, sit in silence, deny small cravings, not to punish yourself, but to prove you're more than your wants. Fourth, set effort-based goals. You cannot control the outcome, but you can control the work. Aim to submit the best application, deliver the best pitch, have the best attitude. The result is not the point. Excellence is. Fifth, honor the long game. Endurance is about tomorrow and the next day and the one after that. 1 rejection is noise. 10 rejections is a trend. But 100 rejections, that is a testament to your commitment. The longer you stay in the arena, the more unshakable you become. Rejection has a way of clearing out the ego and leaving only the essence. If you are still standing after multiple defeats, it means your purpose runs deeper than your pride. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He didn't write for fame. He didn't act for praise. He endured because he believed in something higher than comfort, virtue, integrity, duty. And you? What are you willing to endure for? When rejection comes, it is not asking, are you good enough? It is asking, will you continue even now? And if the answer is yes, if you keep going, not angrily, not bitterly, but quietly and consistently, then you are no longer just chasing success. You are embodying Stoicism. Here is the truth. Very few people will persist after repeated rejection. That's why the ones who do become unshakable, they are not better, they are not luckier. They are simply more practiced in the art of endurance. So the next time rejection knocks on your door, do not resist it. Thank it. Let it enter. Let it train you. And then say to yourself calmly, as Marcus would, what stands in the way becomes the way. That is how the Stoic grows. Lesson 9. Rejection is the fire that reveals your essence. There is an old Stoic metaphor. Fire consumes everything in its path and uses it as fuel. Obstacles do not extinguish the fire, they feed it. And rejection, perhaps more than anything else, is the fuel that reveals what you are truly made of. Think of fire. When you throw weak material into it, the flame falters. But when you feed it with substance, real, solid fuel, it blazes brighter. This is rejection. It burns away illusion. It burns away vanity. It burns away anything that cannot endure scrutiny. But what remains, what cannot be destroyed, is your essence. Marcus Aurelius writes, "To love only what happens, what was destined." No greater harmony. This is not fatalism, it is radical acceptance. It is the act of welcoming the flame because you know what is on the other side is a clearer, purer, more authentic version of you. Rejection, when met with the right mindset, is not a wound. It is a cleansing. Let's look at this in the context of real life. You pursue a relationship that feels aligned. You invest emotionally, open yourself up, begin imagining a shared future, and then, without warning, it ends. Maybe they change their mind. Maybe life pulls them away. Maybe they choose someone else. The modern response is collapse, confusion, rage, shame, obsession. You replay every detail, wondering, what did I do wrong? But the Stoic responds differently. Not with coldness, but with clarity. The Stoic says, "What was never truly mine has left. What remains is what is truly me." That's the test. Not how loudly you grieve, but how clearly you grow. Rejection does not destroy your worth. It reveals where your worth was anchored. Was it tied to someone's attention, someone's affection, someone's validation? Then it was never stable to begin with. The Stoics believed that our only true possession is our moral character. Everything else, title, reputation, relationship, success, is borrowed, temporary, and rejection reminds you of that fact. It strips away what is external so you can return to what is internal. This is why Marcus Aurelius trained daily for loss, not out of fear, but out of readiness. He wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, today I will meet interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." He didn't expect life to pamper him. He expected resistance, and therefore he was never broken by it. This is the 9th lesson. Rejection is not proof of your inadequacy. It is proof of your ability to withstand. Because if you emerge from rejection with grace, with clarity, with a commitment to your principles, you have passed one of life's highest tests. Let's make this practical. First, expect rejection, not in a pessimistic way, but in the Stoic way. Prepare your mind for the fact that not everything you seek will say yes. Second, welcome the emotional burn. Do not resist the discomfort. Sit with it, feel it fully. Then ask, what is this pain burning away? Third, identify the gold. What remains when the flame has passed? What values, what truths, what inner strength? Fourth, refine your direction. Rejection often clarifies what truly matters. It re-centers you. Listen to that signal. Fifth, thank the fire. Seriously. Whisper to yourself, thank you for purifying me. Thank you for burning away what I did not need. The more times you face rejection and emerge composed, the more your inner flame becomes inextinguishable. Imagine a life where no can take you down. Not because you are numb, but because you are trained to let go, trained to adapt, trained to remain upright even when the world tries to bend you. Marcus Aurelius knew this power. That's why he never asked, why me? He asked, how can I use this? So the next time rejection comes, let it come. Let it blaze through your expectations. Let it scorch your false hopes. Let it burn away what is fragile. And then, from the ashes, step forward with what is real. That is Stoicism in action. Lesson 8. Rejection refines your purpose. A life without rejection is a life without definition. It is through the gates that close that we learn which doors matter. Rejection does not only deny, it redirects, reshapes, and most importantly, refines. And what it refines more than anything else is your purpose. Imagine standing before 1,000 paths. All are open. You feel infinite potential, but also confusion. Where should you go? What matters most? Now imagine that with every rejection, a path disappears, not because you are shrinking, but because your life is becoming clearer. This is the Stoic view. Rejection does not narrow you, it sharpens you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If a thing is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That level of clarity only comes from constant inner work, and rejection is one of the greatest tools life gives us for that work. Let's break it down. You start a project, you believe in it. You pour hours, heart and energy into it. You release it into the world, and the world says nothing. No response, no applause, maybe even criticism. In that silence, something happens. You begin to question, why did I do this? If your reason was ego, the silence feels unbearable. But if your reason was purpose, the silence becomes feedback. It points you inward and asks, do you still believe in this, even when no one else does? That is the defining moment. Rejection strips away external motivation. It removes the illusion of popularity, and in that emptiness, you confront the real reason behind your actions. Are you here to impress or to serve? Are you chasing vanity or living your values? The Stoics were not driven by noise. They did not aim to please crowds. They aimed to live in alignment with nature, with reason, with virtue. That is why Marcus Aurelius never adjusted his actions based on others' opinions. He stayed true to his principles, even when it made him unpopular, even when it made him alone. And you can too. Rejection is often life's way of saying, this is not your way. Look deeper. It is a painful whisper that your focus has drifted, that maybe your goal was too shallow, that perhaps your path needs refinement, not abandonment, but redefinition. Let's make this practical. First, every time you're rejected, pause and ask, what was my purpose here? Strip away the outcome. What was your original intention? Second, test the depth. If you were chasing status, you'll feel crushed. If you were acting from values, you'll feel clarity. Third, revisit your core principles. The Stoics advised keeping them close. Write them down. Return to them daily. Let them guide your response to rejection. Fourth, realign your energy. Maybe the rejection didn't mean stop. Maybe it meant adjust. Different method, same mission. Fifth, recommit. With cleaner motives, with clearer vision, with quieter ego. This is not just philosophy. It is discipline, and over time it builds an internal compass that cannot be shaken by the shifting winds of approval. Rejection has shaped every great thinker, leader, artist, and builder. But for the Stoic, greatness is not about fame, it is about integrity. And integrity is proven not when the world says yes, but when it says no, and you stay on course anyway. Marcus Aurelius did not need applause, he needed truth. He needed to live well, act justly, and think clearly. That was his true north, and it can be yours too. So, the next time rejection visits your door, do not push it away. Invite it in, ask it questions, let it cut through the noise. Let it strip away what's unnecessary. And when it leaves, remain stronger, sharper, more devoted to the mission than ever. That is Stoicism in action. Lesson 7. Rejection protects you from false success. We often treat rejection as a misfortune, a failure, a missed opportunity. But the truth, one the Stoics understood well, is that rejection can be a form of protection. Not everything denied to you was meant for your good. Not every yes would have served your peace. Not every success is true success. Marcus Aurelius writes, "It is possible to be happy with very little, just not with too much." This is a striking truth. In a world obsessed with gaining more, the Stoic understands that sometimes what you do not receive is just as important as what you do. And rejection, painful as it feels, is often the shield that guards you from a false path. Let's examine this through a modern lens. You are offered a role in a company with a flashy title and a high salary. You don't get the position, rejected. On the surface, it feels like a loss, but months later, you discover the company was deeply misaligned with your values. The work culture was toxic. The position came with hidden costs, mental, ethical, emotional. What you first saw as a failure was actually protection. The Stoic does not evaluate success by appearance. They evaluate it by its alignment with virtue. If something brings fame but disturbs your soul, it is not success. If it brings wealth but costs you peace, it is not success. If it validates your ego but starves your spirit, it is not success. This is why rejection is a gift. It prevents you from selling yourself short for an illusion. Marcus Aurelius would say, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter." That is his definition of true success: acting justly, thinking clearly, holding to your principles, regardless of the outcome. Let's explore how rejection often saves you from false victories. A partner who leaves before you build a life together, sparing you years of emotional erosion. A creative pitch declined, pushing you to build something more authentic. A crowd that ignores your message, forcing you to refine your voice into something sharper, more meaningful. Each of these losses may hurt in the moment, but with time, you see them not as setbacks, but as redirections away from ego and back toward essence. Here's how you can apply this Stoic lens to your own rejections. First, pause before judgment. Do not label rejection as bad. Suspend your reaction. Let time reveal its purpose. Second, ask, what would success have cost me here? Was the goal pure, or was it driven by pride, fear, or pressure? Third, reframe the loss as protection. What were you spared from? What path now remains open that would have been closed? Fourth, anchor yourself in virtue. Would saying yes to this opportunity have taken you away from your values? If so, you were never truly rejected. You were saved. Fifth, build your definition of success from within. Strip it of noise. Strip it of applause. Reduce it to this: did I act with courage, justice, wisdom, and discipline? If yes, you have not failed. The modern world pushes you to believe that more is always better, but the Stoic knows that excess can be just as damaging as lack. The wrong opportunity, accepted in desperation, can delay your growth. The wrong relationship, clung to in fear, can cloud your judgment. The wrong success, pursued blindly, can poison your soul. Rejection, then, is not a wall. It is a gate. It filters. It sifts. It removes what is not for you. And in doing so, it brings you closer to what is. Marcus Aurelius did not seek more. He sought clarity. He sought simplicity. He sought peace. And often, he found it not in what he gained, but in what he endured, what he declined, what he lost. Let rejection guide you in the same way. Every no is not an insult, it is an invitation to look deeper, to ask harder questions, to return to your core and ask, what am I really here to do? Because when you define success by truth, rejection can never defeat you. It can only refine you. There is Stoicism in action. Lesson 6. Rejection strengthens your control over desire. Desire is a dangerous master. It seduces you into thinking that peace lies in acquiring, in being chosen, in being approved. But the Stoics knew better. They knew that desire, if left unexamined, becomes a chain, and rejection, if used correctly, becomes the key. Marcus Aurelius warns, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. A demon, what he is pointing to is not denial, but discipline. And there is no greater test of discipline than when you are denied something you wanted. That is where lesson 6 begins. Rejection is not a punishment. It is a mirror, reflecting how attached you've become to a particular outcome. Desire is natural. It moves us forward. But when desire turns into need, When your happiness depends on getting what you want, you've given away your freedom. And rejection reveals that dependence with painful clarity. Let's illustrate this. You apply for a creative opportunity, a fellowship, a grant, an artist residency. You feel the anticipation growing. You tell people about it. You imagine your life changing because of it. Then the letter comes. We regret to inform you. In that moment, you feel crushed. But what truly hurts? Is it the loss of the opportunity, or the narrative you had built around it, the imagined self you saw rising if it all went your way? Rejection hurts because it exposes the story, the one that said, "When I get this, I'll finally feel enough." The Stoics call this enslavement to externals, and it is exactly what they train us to break. Epictetus, another giant of Stoicism, teaches, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Rejection then is your practice field. It is where you exercise that disregard, where you say, "This would have been nice, but it does not define me." This is the mindset that makes you untouchable, because when you no longer need approval to feel valid, you gain something far greater than success. You gain serenity. Let's make this actionable. First, observe your desire. When you pursue something, ask, am I acting from integrity or from craving? The difference will shape your reaction if things go wrong. Second, rehearse loss. Before submitting the proposal, before confessing your interest, before taking the risk, imagine the outcome being denied. Not to scare yourself, but to remind your soul, even without this, I remain whole. Third, greet rejection with gratitude. Literally say, "Thank you for showing me where I was still attached." This will feel unnatural at first. Practice anyway. Fourth, return to reason. The Stoic always comes back to this. What is within my control? What can I do now in this moment that reflects my values? Fifth, reduce your dependencies. If one thing not going your way can ruin your peace is not yet real. Use rejection to build internal security. In the ancient world, Stoic training often involved voluntary hardship. They would sleep on hard surfaces, wear simple clothing, eat modest meals, not because they hated comfort, but because they refused to be owned by it. Rejection is modern hardship. And when embraced, it performs the same function. It liberates you from the tyranny of desire. Marcus Aurelius would not have wept over missed opportunities. He would have asked, was I virtuous? If the answer was yes, he would not mourn. Because his goal was not outcome, it was alignment. This is your path too. Let each rejection be a lesson in letting go. Not giving up, but releasing the illusion that anything outside yourself can complete you. You do not need to win to be strong. You do not need to be accepted to be enough. You only need to meet desire with discipline and greet rejection not with collapse, but with calm. That is Stoicism in action. Lesson 5. Rejection reveals your real priorities. Rejection is not always a punishment. It is often a question. It asks, what do you really want? In the pain of being denied, you uncover what you were truly pursuing, and more often than not, it's not what you thought. This is what makes rejection so valuable to the Stoic. It forces clarity. It interrupts illusions. It asks you to untangle your intentions and see your motivations for what they are: clean, confused, or corrupted. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. When you feel crushed by rejection, it is often because what you thought was your priority wasn't. Let's dive deeper. You spend months preparing for a promotion. You work overtime. You study. You build your pitch. In your mind, it becomes the goal, the validation of your growth. Then the email arrives. We've decided to move forward with another candidate. It hits hard, but the Stoic doesn't spiral. The Stoic examines, why did this rejection hurt so much? Was it really about the role, or was it about pride, about recognition, about proving something to others, or even to yourself? You see, rejection is one of life's best mirrors. It reflects your priorities, not the ones you speak about, but the ones you've been living by. This is your chance to realign. Maybe you realize you were chasing status more than service. Maybe you were focused on image more than impact. Maybe your actions were sincere, but your heart was hoping for something external to validate your worth. That's not weakness. That's the human condition. But the Stoic refuses to stay in that place, because true freedom lies in knowing your priorities clearly and living by them, even when the world rejects you. Let's break this into action. First, when rejection strikes, write down your first emotional reaction. Let it be raw. This is your starting point. Second, ask, what was I really seeking? Not just the surface goal, but the feeling beneath it. Approval, security, prestige, meaning. Third, hold that against your values. Marcus Aurelius would ask, does this align with nature, with justice, with reason? If not, the pain you feel is not loss, it's misalignment. Fourth, reorder your energy. If your priorities have drifted, shift them. Don't punish yourself, just adjust. Fifth, recommit to purpose. Purpose is not swayed by rejection. It may pause, it may hurt, but it continues, quietly, faithfully, with integrity. This is the Stoics' way, to see rejection not as a barrier, but as a guidepost. Not a curse, but a correction. Because what you think you want is not always what you truly need. And sometimes, the only way to learn the difference is through the door that closes. Marcus Aurelius did not pray for success. He prayed for clarity. He sought to act in accordance with reason, not emotion, to serve the common good, not the personal ego. And rejection, though painful, often sharpened his path. Let it sharpen yours. You are not what is denied to you. You are what you choose to pursue, even when denied. So the next time rejection knocks, answer with a question. What does this show me about my priorities? And if the answer is uncomfortable, good. That means you're seeing clearly. That means you're growing. That means you're living like a Stoic. That is Stoicism in action. Lesson 4. Rejection teaches you the power of emotional discipline. There is a moment right after rejection when your mind starts to spin. Thoughts race, emotions surge. The temptation is to react immediately, intensely, and often irrationally. But that moment is also the greatest opportunity the Stoic has, the chance to practice emotional discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." In other words, the event itself is neutral. The story you attach to it is optional. Rejection, seen through this lens, is not emotional by nature. It is emotionally charged by choice. This is where Lesson 4 begins. The most powerful response to rejection is not retaliation. It is regulation. Let's make it real. You send a heartfelt message to someone you admire, respect, maybe even love. You get no reply. A part of you wants to spiral into overthinking, into resentment, into self-doubt. But before you act, you pause, you breathe, you observe. That moment of pause is not weakness. It is strength. It is the space between stimulus and response. And it is where the Stoic lives. Rejection stings because it triggers ancient fears of being unworthy, unwanted, unseen. These fears are real, but they are not reality. The Stoic separates feeling from fact. They acknowledge the emotion, but they do not let it dictate their behavior. This is emotional discipline, not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In other words, do not mirror chaos with chaos. Do not meet rudeness with pettiness. Do not repay silence with bitterness. Let rejection refine you. not regress you. Here's how you develop this discipline. First, when rejection strikes, sit in stillness. Before texting back, before venting, before jumping to conclusions, give your nervous system time to settle. Second, name the emotion. Is it sadness, shame, anger, loneliness? Labeling it reduces its grip. It brings it out of the shadows and into the light of awareness. Third, separate the event from the interpretation. The person did not respond. That is a fact. Believing I must not matter, that is a story. Change the story. Fourth, act according to your principles, not your mood. The Stoic asks, what would my highest self do right now? Then does that, regardless of how they feel. Fifth, train daily. Rejection will happen again. Use each instance as practice. Let it become your emotional gym. Strength is built through repetition. This practice is not cold, it is courageous. It takes far more strength to remain centered than to lash out. It takes maturity to let go when everything in you wants to hold on, and that maturity over time becomes unshakable. Think of a tree in a storm. Its branches may bend, but its roots hold firm. That is emotional discipline. And every rejection you endure without losing yourself deepens your roots. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of the most powerful empire on earth, and still he wrote every day to remind himself to stay calm, stay clear, stay kind. If he needed reminders, so do we. Because the true victory after rejection is not getting the last word. It's keeping your inner world intact. So the next time rejection pulls you toward reactivity, choose restraint, not silence rooted in fear, but composure rooted in wisdom. Say to yourself, I am not this feeling, I am the one who observes it. And in that space you will find not just peace, but power. That is Stoicism in action. Lesson 3. Rejection trains you for reality, not fantasy. Most people live in two worlds. One is real, the world of events, actions, cause and effect. The other is imagined, the world of expectations, assumptions, fantasies. Rejection is what happens when those two worlds collide, and for the Stoic, that collision is a blessing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen. This is the path to peace." In other words, stop chasing your fantasies and start facing reality. Rejection is the invitation to do exactly that. Let's look at it clearly. You imagine something going perfectly. A job interview, a relationship, a personal project. You visualize the outcome. You emotionally invest in a future that hasn't happened. And when life doesn't follow the script, you feel betrayed. But who betrayed you? Not life, not the other person. It was your own expectations. The Stoic would ask, did the event cause your suffering, or did your imagination? This is the power of Lesson 3. Rejection pulls you out of illusion. It trains you to love what is, not just what could have been. There is nothing wrong with dreaming. But when you become attached to how things must go, you become vulnerable to suffering. Rejection shatters the fantasy and gives you the truth. And truth, even when painful, is the only foundation for strength. Marcus Aurelius did not imagine a perfect reign. He did not expect loyalty, ease, or eternal health. He trained for loss. He trained for betrayal. He trained for things to go wrong, and so when they did, he was not broken. Can you say the same? Can you accept reality when it interrupts your fantasy? This is what Stoic training is for. Rejection is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is life saying, come back, be here, be now. Let's break this into action. First, before pursuing anything, clarify your goal. Ask, is this based in reality or fantasy? Know what you control and what you do not. Second, expect resistance. Not to be negative, but to be prepared. Assume nothing, hope for nothing, meet the outcome with openness. Third, when rejected, do not say, "This shouldn't have happened." Say instead, "This is part of life." That shift in language builds emotional resilience. Fourth, adjust, not your values, but your view. Life didn't fail you. It corrected your path. Follow the correction. Fifth, stay loyal to effort, not expectation. What matters is not that things turn out as you imagined, but that you show up as your best self, regardless. Marcus Aurelius called this living according to nature. It means aligning with how life is, not how you wish it to be. And rejection is one of life's clearest teachers. It says, your fantasies are soft, but your reality can be sharp if you let it. And in that sharpness, in that discomfort, your real character is forged. Fantasy may feel good, but it does not train you. Reality does. Rejection does. So the next time your imagined path crumbles, don't mourn it. Thank it. Say to yourself, I would rather be shaped by truth than sheltered by illusion. Because when your peace no longer depends on fantasy, no one can take it from you. That is Stoicism in action. Lesson 2. Rejection strengthens the muscle of detachment. If there is one virtue that separates the Stoic from the reactive mind, it is detachment. Not detachment as indifference, but as inner freedom. The ability to face gains and losses, praise and criticism, acceptance and rejection, with the same steady gaze. And nothing exercises this virtue more effectively than being told no. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." These words are not passive, they are powerful. They are the words of a man who ruled an empire and still knew that the only true possession he had was his own mind. Rejection brings you directly to that frontier. It asks, can you love without clinging? Can you try without needing? Can you give without expecting? If the answer is yes, you are already free. Let's walk through this. You build something. You offer something. You present your idea, your talent, your heart, and you are denied. The instinct is to hold tighter, to over-explain, to fight for what was lost. But what you are really fighting for is control. The Stoic sees this and steps back, because detachment is not weakness, it is mastery. It is choosing to release what was never truly yours to begin with. And in that release, you recover the one thing that is always yours, your peace. Detachment is the muscle rejection trains. Most people confuse attachment with commitment. They think letting go means giving up. But the Stoic knows you can be deeply committed and completely detached. You can give your all and still be okay if the answer is no. This is not easy, but it is essential. Attachment creates suffering. Rejection exposes the attachment, and detachment ends the suffering. Let's make this practice real. First, before you pursue any goal, ask, am I attached to the outcome or committed to the process? If it's the outcome, pause, reflect. Second, if rejection comes, do not resist it. Say, this too is part of life. Breathe into the space that opens. Feel the emotion. Let it pass. Third, reflect on what you feared losing. Was it pride, identity, security? These are signs of attachment. Note them. Fourth, repeat to yourself, what is not mine cannot be lost. This mantra is ancient. It cuts through noise. It grounds you in the present. Fifth, act again, with clarity, with intention, without clinging. This is detachment in motion. Marcus Aurelius faced loss constantly, friends, opportunities, peace, even his own health. Yet he continued to write with serenity, not because he felt nothing, but because he had trained his mind to let go of what he could not hold. Detachment is not cold. It is not avoidance. It is choosing presence over possession, peace over control, action over anxiety. When rejection teaches you this, it stops being something to fear and becomes something to thank. You are not defined by what you get. You are revealed by what you release. So the next time rejection arrives, do not grip harder. Open your hand, loosen your expectations, and remind yourself, nothing that belongs to me will require force to keep. That is detachment. And that is Stoicism in action. Lesson 1. Rejection returns you to what cannot be taken. When everything else is denied to you, what remains? This is the ultimate Stoic question. Because there will come a time in your life when you do everything right, give everything you have, and still the answer will be no. Not because you failed, but because life had something else in mind. Rejection, at its deepest level, brings you back to the core of Stoic philosophy, that your true power lies not in what happens, but in how you respond. Marcus Aurelius, writing in the quiet of the night after battles, loss, and betrayal, reminded himself, "You may break your heart, but men will still go on as before." Meaning, the world does not bend to your will, but your will can bend toward the world. And in that bending, you become unbreakable. This is the greatest lesson. Rejection does not take anything from you. It only reveals what cannot be taken. What cannot be taken? Your integrity, your principles, your discipline, your clarity, your courage, your ability to begin again. Rejection cuts, yes, but it also carves. It carves away illusion. It carves away dependence. It carves away the idea that your worth is up for negotiation. You see, the Stoics never promised a life without pain. They promised a life where pain could be transformed, where rejection becomes refinement, where loss becomes learning, where being denied by others becomes a chance to affirm yourself. And when you reach this point, when you are no longer shaken by denial, you begin to touch what the ancients called ataraxia, stillness of soul. Imagine this. You are passed over for something deeply important. A role, a dream, a love. You sit in the silence that follows. But instead of spiraling, you return to the one thing no one can reject, your values. You go for a walk, you write, you train your body, you show kindness to a stranger, you keep your promises, you meet the moment, not with bitterness, but with resolve. That is Stoicism in its purest form. The world may not choose you, but you still choose how to live. This is not denial. This is defiance, the highest kind. The quiet, steady refusal to let external outcomes define your internal state. Let's make this final lesson deeply practical. First, remember, the rejection is not you. It is something that happened. Do not confuse your worth with the world's response. Second, return to your principles. Write them, speak them, live them. They are the one compass that does not fail. Third, reclaim your time and energy. Do not waste them on revenge, regret, or self-pity. Use them to build, to serve, to move. Fourth, recommit to your path. If it is true, it will withstand rejection. If it cannot, it was never truly yours. Fifth, carry this mantra in your soul. They can refuse my work. They cannot touch my will. This is what Marcus Aurelius lived. Surrounded by chaos, he remained rooted. Denied comfort, he remained disciplined. Rejected by many, he remained just. And so can you, because in the end, rejection takes nothing essential from you. It only reveals the strength of what remains. And if you've been walking the Stoic path, what remains is everything. So take this final lesson and let it live in your mind. Rejection cannot harm me, only my reaction can. And in choosing your reaction wisely, you reclaim the only power that matters. That is Stoicism in action. By now you've walked through 13 powerful lessons, not abstract theories, not feel-good affirmations, but truths forged in fire. Lessons Marcus Aurelius himself would have recognized, even in the middle of plague, betrayal, and war. Lessons that do not aim to comfort, but to awaken. Rejection in the modern world is often treated as a wound, something to be ashamed of, a moment to hide, to explain away, to fix. But the Stoic sees through this illusion. The Stoic knows you were never truly rejected. You were redirected toward the inner world that cannot be denied, cannot be taken, cannot be destroyed. And that world, the one you've been slowly uncovering through these lessons, is your real home. That is what Stoicism returns you to. Not power over others, but power over yourself. Not freedom from discomfort, but freedom from false hope. Not escape from rejection, but a mindset that no rejection can shake. Look back for a moment. Think of all the rejections you've faced. The relationships that didn't last, the jobs that didn't happen, the doors that stayed closed. Think of the silence after your best effort. The moments where you gave your all and life still whispered, "Not this, not now." At the time, it hurt. Of course it did. But ask yourself honestly, did it break you, or did it break something in you that needed to go? That illusion of control, that need for validation, that quiet desperation to be chosen. You see, rejection does not target your strength. It targets your ego. It does not rob your potential. It removes what clouds it. It does not reduce your worth. It reveals what you've been confusing for it. And so, rejection becomes sacred. Not because it's pleasant, but because it's pure. It forces you to stand naked before yourself, to ask, who am I when I don't get what I want? That is the moment where real character begins. Marcus Aurelius did not win every battle. He did not get everything he hoped for. But he trained his mind every day to align with reason, not reaction. And that's what made him powerful. Not his crown, but his clarity. You don't need to be an emperor to live this way. You only need to choose differently the next time life says no. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, what now? Instead of collapsing into shame, rise into strategy. Instead of needing their approval, return to your values. Because rejection isn't personal, it's directional. It's life rerouting you toward truth, toward growth, toward the version of you that does not depend on external applause to move forward. Think of the Stoic not as someone who is invincible, but as someone who is unshakable. Not because they feel nothing, but because they no longer fear what they feel. And you're becoming that person. Each time you breathe through disappointment, each time you respond with integrity instead of insecurity, each time you choose calm over chaos, you prove to yourself that you no longer serve the old gods of approval and perfection. You serve the truth. And here's the deepest truth. Rejection is not a pause in your story. It is your story. It's what defines your path. It's what purifies your focus. It's what builds the quiet, steady strength that no one can see, but everyone will feel. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It doesn't need more people begging to be seen. It needs more people like you. People who are willing to lose what isn't real to protect what is. People who are willing to be denied comfort to gain character. People who are willing to let go of control and embrace clarity. This is the Stoic path. It is not easy, but it is real. It does not promise approval, but it guarantees growth. It does not shield you from pain, but it arms you with purpose. And in the end, that's what rejection leaves you with. Not regret, but resolve. Not bitterness, but balance. Not weakness, but wisdom. So the next time it happens, remember this. You were not rejected. You were refined. You were not cast out. You were called inward. You were not broken. You were built. You are not here to chase what leaves. You are here to become what stays. Let that be the final word, and let it echo in your mind when silence follows your effort. When no one claps. When the message is unread. When the answer is no. Say to yourself as Marcus Aurelius would, "This too is fuel for my fire." And then keep walking, calm, clear, unshakable. That is Stoicism in action. This is Stoic Diary, and you are ready.